I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Adrian Diaz.
Welcome. We are two members of the speech and debate team here at Butte College. So let's talk about the speech and debate team. We call it forensics. Not that type of forensics. Forensics roughly translates meaning to search the truth. And that's what we do here. We are searching for the truth in competitions where we develop our research skills, polish our speaking styles, and think on our feet. So how would one go about joining the speech debate team?
Why, I'm glad you asked, Vanessa. You would go to buttecollege.edu and under academic programs, look for communications. And there you would find CMST 12 for written. CMST 12. And CMST 12 is hosted by our wonderful Shannon Troxel, professor, and she will guide you to our team. Team.
And what do teams do?
Well, our teams do supportive collaboration to help you express and find what you are passionate about, what you feel needs to be said.
Or debated on. So where do we do that? At
tournaments.
Where we win the gold, the silver, the bronze, all the above, and some extras. These tournaments are great, and because of COVID, we've had to go virtual on them as well as our classes. But they have adapted fantastically. Some of which we can go to the campus and come together as a team, getting that lovely dynamic, and others we do in the comfort of our own homes. Some we tape beforehand and submit into, and others we have live judges. It's fantastic.
Yes, so please, without further ado, we'll get down to business. So remember to turn off your mics and put the speaker view in your Zoom profile so you can see the theatrical performance. And just as a reminder, for those of you participating in this event for your public speaking extra credit, stay tuned until after the program where Shannon can give you the required links that will give you credit for this.
Well, without further ado, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce Cece. She's a first semester student here with our speech and debate team. Her major is respiratory therapy, and she'll be doing a persuasive speech. She also competes in impromptu. A persuasive speech is where we urge our listeners to change the status quo. We present an issue, and we hope to empower people to change our society and even our government. Without further ado, Cece.
At the start of the pandemic, my local hospital restricted access to personal protective equipment, or PPE, for their environmental service staff. Even though these employees work in the same COVID-contaminated areas as doctors and nurses. Finally, a hospital employee voiced their concern on social media, and the response was overwhelming. As that post went viral, women in the community gathered up whatever materials they had on hand and hand-sewed face masks to donate to the environmental service workers. Now, this story highlights the power of community and social media, but it's also a glaring failure of healthcare facilities to keep their often unseen essential workers safe. For any community and healthcare facility, the environmental service staff, or EVS as they like to be called, are the backbones of the facility. They're your housekeepers, your floor techs, your garbage techs, basically any employee whose commitment is to be there and keep the facility safe for your protection. And their lack of protection is putting you at risk. So today, let's look behind the hospital doors at some of the problems with the environmental service staff. Let's explore some possible causes. And finally, let's unfold some solutions, because the hospital is where you're meant to go to get well, and they shouldn't be breaking their essential employees in the process. For all communities, their lifeline and health and well-being are the quality of the healthcare facilities and the employees' abilities to do their job properly. Most people don't know, but environmental service staff are specialized by job, not location. What this means is that an employee may find themselves cleaning in a COVID-contaminated area and then pulled to a food sanitation area, and they may even be gained to the emergency room department to help out due to chronic short staffing, all in one shift. And what this means is that these employees are at the highest risk of unknowingly spreading a healthcare-acquired infection. A healthcare acquired infection is an infection that you got in the facility. You didn't come in with it, such as staph, MRSA, C. diff, now possibly COVID. These healthcare acquired infections are out of control. According to the CDC's own website, in 2017, healthcare acquired infections accounted for 1.7 million infections. That doesn't count 99,000 preventable deaths in 1 year. So while we're looking at these healthcare acquired infections, I'm sure you're going to remember the case of the alleged Christmas tree costume at a Bay Area COVID. According to NBC, an employee wearing an inflatable Christmas tree costume unknowingly spread COVID throughout an emergency room department, infecting 44 healthcare workers and 1 healthcare worker who lost their life. But what they don't tell you is that just a month before, healthcare workers were at strike on that facility and 6 other Kaiser facilities to bring awareness to the healthcare mongrel's risky labor practices that were putting the community at risk of just this type of outbreak. Second, workers are getting sick and dying simply from doing their job. According to The Guardian, in March of 2020, Kaiser had 5 employees file complaints with the Occupational Safety Health Administration, OSHA, stating that they were receiving 0 PPE. OSHA never went out to inspect the facility and they never followed up. Later, a Cage-In investigation found 35 healthcare workers lost their life as a result of those complaints. There was never a citation, never a fine. That's 35 healthcare workers who lost their life in 1 facility in 1 year. This lack of protection is unacceptable. So now that we've seen how poor labor practices are putting environmental service workers and the community at risk, let's look at some of the possible causes. It's important to remember that while hospitals are often labeled nonprofit, they have CEOs who like big bonuses, making corporate greed our #1 cause. According to the online register of NFR, hospitals early on in the pandemic took a loss. However, they quickly made that up and ran into profits. The reason for this quick increase was a massive federal funding package just for healthcare facilities. HCR, the nation's largest for-profit hospital, took in $1.4 billion in aid and still raised profit in just the second quarter of 2020. Yet the cuts are still happening to EVS staff. Now, to look at our second cause, we're going to again take an example of Kaiser. I'm only using Kaiser as an example because they're the most recent to have their issues publicly recorded. But be sure this is happening at hospitals around the nation. According to Kaiser executives or CEOs, over 3 dozen who make $1 million a year, EVS workers who make $40,000 a year are overpaid, even as the hospital took in $4.6 billion in profit last year. This is our second cause, the economic dehumanization of EVS workers. According to San Francisco Curb Online, the 2017 U.S. Census stated that the median household income for San Francisco was about $96,000 a year. This is the area where these comments were made. And what that means is that an EVS worker making $44,000 a year must live at the poverty level to continue to provide an invaluable service to the communities where they live. So now that we've looked at some of the possible causes, let's look at some of the solutions. I'm going to suggest some things for the system at large, some things you can do at home. According to Brookings Online, hospital employees early on in the pandemic were receiving hazard pay. However, by the fall, that money was gone, and the first to lose that money were EVS workers. We must bring back hazard pay for the employees working in contaminated areas. They deserve it, their families deserve it. Secondly, wages need to be steadily increased over the next few years as pandemic resources are replaced once again with elective surgeries. These hospitals are in the black. They have no excuse to underpay their essential workers. And lastly, a hospital, according to the government's own National Health Library online, is seen as having a moral obligation and duties owed to their healthcare employees, their patients, and the community they served. What this means is that their funding relies on providing a service to us. So we do have a say in how they operate. It's been demonstrated that large government agencies such as the aforementioned OSHA cannot be held responsible to keep these mega healthcare facilities investing in the very backbone of their facilities. So it is up to us. In my opening, I shared with you the story of a hospital employee sharing their concern on social media. I tell you that story because I was that EVS worker. When my post went viral and I saw the women's response, I had never been prouder of my community. I drove around the next morning at 7 a.m. to hand pick those masks and take them back to my coworkers. One mother said to me that she felt like a modern Betsy Day Ross, not sewing flags for her country's fight against COVID, but sewing the face masks that were going to protect the frontline workers and thereby protect her family. And the hospital, seeing the community's investment and concern for the EVS staff, immediately changed their policy and began providing PPE for all employees. That shows the power of how our voice is heard. So today, we've looked at some of the problems behind healthcare facilities with the mistreatment and dehumanization of EVS staff that's putting our communities at risk. We've explored the probable cause of corporate greed. And finally, I suggested some solutions for the system at large and something you can do right at home from your computer. If not during a pandemic, then when? We can't wait anymore. Please don't wait until you find yourself or a loved one at a healthcare facility at risk. Thank you.
Oh, hello, still here? Welcome back. Up next, we have the lovely Merit Grace, where she will be doing a program oral interpretation, which is a piece of art in oral interpretation where she pulls sources from literary and artistic elements within our society to give a dramatic interpretation of something she feels very strongly about. Merit Grace is a second semester team member and competes in all the oral interpretation events. Her major is psychology and child development. Just like Cece, who I feel is a luxury of ours to have a respiratory healthcare worker in the time of a pandemic, being able to give a speech about her firsthand experience. She's joining us virtually from her new home in Washington. Merit Grace?
Come along now, Jedediah. Here's the menu. You could have anything you want. They've got burritos, burrito bowls, quesadillas. Uno momento, por favor. A what? A quesadilla? Yeah, okay. Excuse me. Why, yes, hello. May I please get one quesadilla with a gluten-free cover? Let's talk about white women here, shall we? Amazing. Our accomplishments over the last few years, the way that white women somehow hijacked the woke movement, generals around the world should be analyzing this. Just to refresh your memory, the woke movement was supposed to be about people of color, not getting opportunities, finally making things happen. And it was that for about 8 seconds. But then somehow white women swung their Gucci booted feet over the fence of oppression and stuck themselves in the front lines. I don't know how we did it. On the face of it, harmless and amusing. A wooden box with a delicate carving. Satin ribbons of yellow and pink adorn the facade, but deep within the coiled spring lays ready to pounce. Click, click, click. The lever turns. No, we're allergic to corn. I said gluten-free. What do you mean you have no gluten-free quesadillas? Look, why don't you just run back there and get me someone who might actually understand what I'm trying to say? You comprende? At this point, we have all seen the viral videos or have our own personal interaction with the Karen, whether that be from a parking lot confrontation to a call to the police. These white women have caused irreparable harm, especially to people of color, using their white privilege as a weapon to harm others and a shield against the consequences. As a way to fight back, San Francisco has issued the Caution Against Racially Exploitive Non-Emergency Act, or Karen for short. This would make it illegal for someone to call law enforcement solely based on someone else's race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, or religion. We have to continue to disarm these people and continue to push ourselves, myself, and those who look like me to be better allies. Using poetry under the delicate veneer by Jenny Hone, drama, May I Speak to Your Manager by S.D. Harris, stand-up, Bill Burr, and prose, Karen and Miss Anne by Karen Grigsby Bates, a program, and a plea to white women. Do better. All right. Is this thing on? Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I just wanted to come on here and talk about some people that have been constantly popping up in my TikTok For You page. So I did a little bit of research. I just kind of want to rant about Karens. I'm sure we all know who Karens are at this point. I mean, who doesn't? The first thing that I want to say is these Karens did not just spring full grown from the ether. You know, they're the latest link in an evolutionary chain that goes back centuries. Back in the 90s, we had Becky, you know. Oh my God, Becky. That kind of bubbly Valley Girl voice. A little overdramatic when confronted with her whiteness. Becky wanted all the girls in the homecoming corps to straighten their hair. So we all look nice. And well, Becky can't be racist because she's gone out with a couple of black dudes. But really, white woman, I've never heard so much complaining in my life. I'm hurt with my SUV and my heated seats. You have no idea what it's like to be me. Thrashing white dudes, the nerve. Listen, I don't mean to speak ill of my bitches here. I really don't. But let's go back in history here, shall we? You white woman stood by those toxic white males through centuries of their crimes against humanity. You rolled around in the blood money. And occasionally, when the time came and you wanted to sneak off with a black dude, and if you got caught, you said it wasn't consensual. Yeah, that's right. That's what you did. You did that. Not everybody finds her so amusing. Hid away in an artful cover, deep within the box. Only a swindler who cheated tradesmen would carry it to task. But what should I fear? Click, click, click. Listen here, as I was trying to explain to your little worker over there, my son and I have an extreme corn allergy, and she doesn't seem to understand what I want. Jedediah, honey, just hold on. I'm gonna get you your food, okay? Look, you just run back there and get me a gluten-free quesadilla. No, what do you mean no? Everybody, this Chipotle is refusing my service. I am a paying customer and they are refusing my good boy his food. That's it. I'm writing a Yelp review right now. But even Becky was rooted in Miss Anne. And if that sounds kind of antebellum, that's because it is. She might not have been this mistress of a big sprawling plantation. Maybe she was just an inhabitant of a much more humble home. But whether Miss Anne actually hoed her own land or owned black bodies, she was going to consider herself better than the best black person out there because she was white. And white womanhood, as we know it, rich or poor, was firmly placed on a pedestal, the living icon of white supremacy, engaging and attractive. This prize lays inside. Well-intentioned, I'm sure, so forward we'll stride. Click, click, click. Tension builds as I turn. What resides deep inside? The trapdoor lays still, but undercover she boils. Click, click, click. Oh, really? You're gonna film me? No, you film this amigo right over here discriminating against me. No, I'm not going to get out of this line. I'm going to stand right here till someone gives my boy his food. Well, if you're going to film me, I'm going to film you. That's right. I'm putting this on Facebook. The local news will hear about it. My husband is a well-respected businessman, and well, we know people, all right? That's it. Get out of my way. Get out of my way. Let go. Let go. I'm calling the police. Karen has inherited Miss Ann's entitlement. It's been handed down like this family silver platter or an antique wedding veil. Certain of her right to be there, and it's that certainty that makes her so dangerous. Karen knows she can call on her community to put Black bodies where she wants them. Don't want them at the hotel swimming pool? Call the police. Don't think they should be sleeping in the same dorm room as you? Call the police. Offended by that child selling water on a hot sidewalk near you? Burst out of her cage, a monstrous sight, painted white teeth, a frozen smile. She sways and rolls, mockingly so, dead eyes as she screams. Emmett Till, Claude Neal. There are enough histories of Black deaths following the wake of a white woman's displeasure to make the rise of Karens a worrisome prospect. Even when Karen is not enticing violence upon Black and brown people herself, she knows she can enlist others to do so, if she wants. So white people, I beg of you, identify racism as it's happening. Strive to share power with people of color. Recognize your own limitations as a white person doing anti-racist work. But most importantly, realize it's not about you. Be objective and avoid over-personalizing issues that people of color raise. Stuff her back in. Close the lid. Click, click, click.
Hello, my name is Jesse Francisco. I am a first teammate here at the Butte College Forensic Speech and Debate Team. I am here because I want to talk to you about IPDA. IPDA stands for International Public Debate Association. They are the ones that present the format that we are going to be using tonight. These formats are used in colleges and competitions around the world. So today I would like to introduce you to our two debaters. Our first debater is Ken. Ken is a third semester teammate who is majoring in political science and international relations. He will be going on to Penn State next semester. Our other opponent, debater is Emily. Emily is a second semester teammate, and she is majoring in communications. And these are going to be our two debaters.
Hello.
So what we are going to be doing is we are going to be giving them 4 resolutions. We're going to be striking 3, and then they're going to be debating 1. So without further ado, here is our first. Here's our 4 resolutions. Okay, so how we're going to do this is the negative will strike first. Emily, you are negative. Emily, which one of these would you like to strike?
Yes, I'm negative, and I'm going to strike. Cryptocurrency is good for us.
Okay, so our first resolution, cryptocurrency is good for us, is stricken. We are going to our affirmative. Ken, what would you strike?
The United States federal government should mandate that vaccine patents be publicly shared.
Ken has struck vaccine mandate with Emily. Which are you going to strike?
I will go ahead and strike that Seth Rogen is right to no longer do movies with James Franco.
So our affirmative will strike the last one.
I am going to strike the recall of Governor Newsom is going to fail.
Okay, and then our, which means our resolution tonight is I can see it.
Federal government
Oh, our resolution tonight is the U.S. federal government should pass
the American job.
the American Jobs Plan. Each debater will have 15 minutes, and we will be back to see how they're doing.
Now, while we wait for our debaters to prepare, we have our next speaker. It is a pleasure to introduce Lourdes. She is a first semester speech and debate student here, and she's also an English major. She'll be performing an ADS, after dinner speech. These speeches require the speaker to use wit and humor while providing commentary on topics of social importance. Without further ado, Lourdes.
Last weekend, I was headed out to my friend's house for a party. I hadn't seen her since high school, so I was kind of excited when I got that Facebook invite. I know what you're thinking, really, Lourdes, Facebook? But who else is going to sell my personal data online? I grabbed my I'm vaccinated pin and a 12-pack of White Claw, and I headed out the door. But when I arrived, I saw something strange. Oils, little vials of scented oils. And I'm not just talking one or two, it was tables of this stuff. This was not the kind of party I was hoping for. I'd been duped into an essential oil pyramid scheme. As I crouched into the lavender-scented corner, I pulled out my phone to quickly research my options. I found an article from The Cut of February this year titled, "Hey Hun, in Women's Joblessness, Multi-Level Marketing Found an Opportunity." Apparently, it wasn't just me, and it definitely wasn't just oils. We're talking a multi-billion-dollar industry filled with things like jewelry, candles, leggings, athletic wear, fitness programs. This is no longer your mother's Tupperware Mary Kay. As I moved around making small talk, I quickly realized everyone there sold something, trying to get ahead, but somehow barely treading water. So I dug deeper into the causes, effects, and solutions to the multi-level marketing scheme, tricking so many women and stealing my Saturday. The cause of multi-level marketing companies, or MLMs, gaining pace is much like the Gen Z middle part, two-sided. The first is rooted in the idea of the side hustle, and the second is spurred along by the pandemic. I know that one was bad, but I have to. But first, if you've had a hobby, I'm sure you've heard someone asking how you're going to market it. In an episode of NPR's Code Switch from 2020, they note that hustle is just another term for a culture obsessed with optimizing, grinding, and life hacking. Sure, we could all hate our boring-ass 9-to-5s and develop crippling depression like our parents, but this allows us to show our true capitalist values when all of our free time is suddenly needed to make a profit. When combined with gender, this goes even deeper with mom boss culture, which can be traced back to the late 2000s when moms ventured online looking for a community to share their plight. Bloggers. As social media got bigger, so did the idea of moms earning a little cash on the side. They no longer had to choose between working and staying at home. They could make money from home, buying into these companies and moving up by selling to more women, all for a not so small investment up front. According to Refinery 29 article earlier this month, writer Helen Packer says, the flexible working and easy money promised by MLMs is increasingly appealing. Yeah, so are middle parts and tube tops until they start bringing back low-rise jeans. Then we're over that shit. However, the targets of these types of companies do not realize the cost that comes with buying it. Cause 2, the pandemic only increased the popularity of MLMs. World Economic Forum reported on February 4th, 2021, that the COVID-19 pandemic and resulting lockdown caused 114 million people to lose their jobs in 2020. Additionally, with so many schools and childcare options closing, this forced many working parents to leave their jobs in order to take care of their kids, or worse, learn their names. Combined, this has people looking elsewhere for alternative employment options. And why look further than your computer screen when you're already binge watching Bridgerton? No shame, sis. Play episode 6 again. And for the MLMs, business is booming. According to Abby Veswat and Elena Doctorman at Time Magazine last year, 51% of MLMs said that COVID-19 has had a positive impact on their 2020 revenue. 59% reported the same reported that in a later survey. But just like with the COVID test, this positive isn't necessarily good for the community. So let's see what kind of effects it's had. The effects are much like those essential oils I sniffed for way too long. You can't just have one. First, with people losing money quickly, and second, with women being specifically targeted. One of the biggest enticements of MLMs is that you're able to make easy money fast, and some people do. But for most people, climbing that profit ladder looks a lot like Joe Biden boarding a plane. Excruciating. According to the same article by Refinery 29, the Federal Trade Commission in the US estimates that only 1% of MLM 1% of MLM members walk away without a loss, meaning 99% actually lose money. And too often these people don't realize they're losing until they get out, kind of like all those GameStop buyers on day 3. Most MLMs require retailers to buy in, purchasing product to have on hand, and working a supply line if you can recruit. For example, Jamie Craig, age 30 of Michigan, according to BuzzFeed reports in 2017, that she invested over 15 grand in MLMs, never saw a profit, and couldn't return any product, leaving her in debt. But it's not just money, it's also loss of opportunities. People walk away from their jobs, promotions, and other opportunities, all of which becomes detrimental to their livelihood. Plus, now I'm really nervous to answer anyone on Facebook Messenger. We also see how it is women who are being specifically targeted. As I mentioned previously, these companies use mom boss culture as a hook. Amanda Monti at Vox said in 2021 that MLMs built their digital mythos around the prospect of power and community, appealing to ordinary mothers who felt alienated from public life by offering up ready-made opportunities. So like an anti-vaxxer at a buffet, they're spreading the love. Chicago Tribune in 2019 reported 18.6 million Americans, 74% of them women, are a part of at least one MLM. Additionally, the pandemic has reinforced gender norms, setting the glass ceiling back stronger than ever. Since most of the time, women are pressured into staying with their children, yes, all of them, it is the women who are losing out on jobs and another income. This is just another addition to the stresses that plague women every day. And because it is women who are being targeted, the issue has been allowed to go on for years, stripping many families of their life savings and driving them into debt. The few women who do speak out are dismissed quicker than Caitlyn Jenner's governor bid. We've seen the dire impacts of MLMs, we've smelled the Kool-Aid, so now it's time to put down the patchouli and take action with some solutions. First is through stronger legal protections. As it stands, there isn't consistent or definitive legal language over what an MLM is, or over what a pyramid scheme is. MLMs are able to operate in the same way, but without the harsh consequences. MLMs need to be more transparent with their retailers about cost, loss, and make more flexible policies or pay passive fines. One example is Mega MLM LuLaRoe, which, if you don't know it, imagine a sea of printed tops and leggings sold out of your neighbor's spare room. But according to Business Insider, in 2018, the company was raking in more than $1 billion annually. And while its private retailers, aka your neighbor, were going into debt, hawking leggings on street corners like stolen watches. But with the court mandate in Washington forcing them to pay back millions and refine transparency, they are significantly restrained in that state. And if these regulations are anything like when I started buying houseplants, there will be more. Oh yes, many more. Another solution, and perhaps the easiest, is to simply use common sense. Yes, these types of companies do seem like a great opportunity, but with a little bit of research, the dangers are extremely evident. Since most people won't do a simple Google search before offering up their child's life savings, maybe we should harness the power of social media. Awareness is growing as users on the popular platform TikTok are creating videos of the dangers of MLMs. Please don't hate me for saying this, but Hattie and Heather, popular TikTokers, have been doing just this, through catchy videos targeting those same global moms, but helping rather than hurting. According to Refinery29 earlier this year, they have millions of followers, now at least somewhat educated on the topic, and less likely to fall victim. Okay, that's the last time I'll mention TikTok. For many of us, that also means not buying. Don't feed the fantasy with your sympathy purchases. Kindly direct your friends to the resources warning folks against MLM nightmares. Essentially, if we don't want people constantly bugging us, losing a bunch of money, we need to support legal change and support a community of voices against MLMs. Today, we covered some of the causes, effects, and solutions to the financial takeover of MLMs in our common era. As I drove home from that party smelling like bergamot and tea tree oil, whatever that is, I imagined a better world. One where I never went to a party like that again. And also one where women didn't fall into traps and lose money. So the next time you get a message from somebody starting with, "Hey, hun," you know what to do.
Wasn't that great? Let's go back to our resolution. We are having a debate, and we have had 15 minutes for our two presentations. Our presenters who have had their time to research this wonderful resolution. Let's go to them and let's start this debate. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to give 3 minutes to the affirmative. The 3 minutes, the affirmative, Ken, will give you reasons why he is pro for the resolution. Okay, now we are going to go to Ken, and he will start us off. Ken?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm gonna set a timer here real quick so I know how I'm doing. All right. Good afternoon. Our resolution today is the United States federal government should pass the American Jobs Plan. What is this? This is a plan put together and advocated by the Joe Biden administration. It is a $2 trillion package aimed at revitalizing American infrastructure and providing jobs. I'll be on the affirmative, arguing why we should pass this. I'll be explaining this through two contentions. How we need to modernize our transportation system and our infrastructure, and we need to protect and create jobs and stimulate the American economy. My first contention today is that we need to modernize our transportation system. According to Forbes, reported in 2019, the United States has over 47,000 structurally unsafe bridges. 47,000 bridges that people drive over every single day. Of course, I don't need to tell you the amount of potholes in our national highway system and local roads. A lot of this money goes directly to repairing these bridges and roads, $621 billion to be exact. That is a lot of money, but directly toward repairing this infrastructure that we all use on a daily basis. That also provides money for subsidizing electric vehicles, helping build infrastructure and charging stations for the new generation of vehicles, which are cleaner and better for the environment. And it also dedicates a lot of money toward fixing water systems. We're all familiar with the Flint water crisis, and this plan promises to repair all of the lead pipes in the United States. This is according directly to Joe Biden's White House webpage. My second contention today is that we need to protect and create jobs. A lot of this money goes toward building up certain industries. One of them specifically is care workers for elderly and young children. Most of the people that work in this field are women, specifically women of color as well, who are underpaid and underappreciated. And this plan specifically goes toward helping them secure higher wages and better job opportunities in this industry. This has been an underappreciated industry for a long time, and this bill goes toward addressing that. As well as the jobs created through the infrastructure programs, we're going to need people to build all these roads and infrastructure. And so this creates a lot of jobs that way too. It also vitalizes U.S. manufacturing and supply chains to make our economy more robust. So through our two contentions, through repairing our crumbling infrastructure, both roads and water systems, and providing jobs and restructuring our economy and getting people back to work and making America once again the producer of great goods in the world, we can see that this plan is fully positive for the American people. Thank you. And we'll do cross-sections.
Okay, guys, that was an excellent first introduction. Now we are going to be doing a 1-minute cross-examination. Cross-examination is where the negative is going to be able to ask questions clarifying specific points that you would like to know of the affirmative Ken. So Emily, if you'd like to come up, you and Ken can come up here and do a little cross-examination. Okay.
1 minute on the call. All right. Hello, Ken.
Hello.
Great opening speech.
Thank
One of my questions for you is that your second contention is saying that it will create and protect jobs. Have people not benefited from the first spending bill that Biden passed that was also a multi-trillion-dollar plan that had this exact intention?
Well, the first plan was more directed toward local businesses specifically, and putting money directly into people's pockets through unemployment assistance. This is more of a general economical plan, as well as we have seen a slower than expected job creation from the first plan, which indicates that we need supplemental additional money being spent on the second one.
Okay. In your first contention, you said that according to Forbes, there's 47,000 unsafe bridges in the United States. Are all of these unsafe infrastructural bridges going to be covered under this plan? Are all of those going to be fixed?
The bill proposes to fix the worst 10,000 as well as the top 10 most economically significant buildings.
So approximately 37 will be left out. That's fine.
Excellent. Now what we're going to do is we are going to give the negative, Emily. She is going to have 4 minutes to give her reasons why the resolution is negative, or why I judge should vote negative. All right, Emily, please.
Okay, so the resolution today is that the U.S. federal government should pass the American Jobs Plan. I argue that we should not pass this plan. My two contentions today are that it is too broad of a plan that should be broken up, and that it is too much money too fast. It's not going to do what we say it will. Today, my first contention, it's too broad of a plan. My opponent says that we're going to focus on infrastructure today with this plan, and yet infrastructure, when looking at the actual spending bill, has a very broad definition. Now, Oxford Languages says that infrastructure is the basic physical structures and facilities that make up buildings and roadways. Now, in this plan, infrastructure is broadened to mean things like expanding Medicaid, job training for ex-convicts, and passing an act advocating for unions. While some of these things might be great and might need some spending towards them, they should not have a place in an infrastructure bill, where we should be focusing on these 47,000 bridges that my opponent says do not have a safe and sound infrastructure with them. Instead, we're expanding this money to too many different areas. It's too broad and it needs to be narrowed down. Now, this spending going towards Medicaid, job training for ex-convicts, and passing the PRO Act is all from the whitehouse.gov fact sheet for this spending bill. My second contention is that it's too much money too fast. New York Times on April 28th says that Biden's 3 big spending plans total approximately $6 trillion altogether. That is a lot of money. And while we do need to stimulate the economy and get these jobs flowing, that is just way too much too quickly for a nation that is already severely in debt. Going on to address some of my opponent's contentions today. His first contention is that this plan is modernizing transportation, and that 47,000 of these bridges are unsafe.
and that we will be fixing water systems like the lead pipes that are causing contamination in multiple different places. This is a fantastic thing. However, my opponent did say that we're focusing on the 10,000 most severe bridges, yet that leaves 37,000 more unsafe bridges left over that are not being taken care of. Instead, it's going towards these job training programs. So we're trying to fix the problem by slapping a Band-Aid on half of the wound, not even half, barely 10% of the wound. We're slapping a Band-Aid on it and saying that the situation is fixed. Yes, there will be jobs created, but this is not the plan that needs to be passed as is. Secondly, it will create and protect jobs. In my cross-examination, I asked my opponent that how have these elderly care workers and child care workers not benefited from the already earlier multi-trillion-dollar plan passed by Biden earlier this year? He's only been in office since January 20th, and yet he's spending $6 trillion worth of money to help stimulate the economy, and yet he keeps on saying it's not enough. We need to spend more and more and more. If we pass this plan as is, it will create an issue where he keeps on needing to spend because he's using too broad of definitions. So that's why today the U.S. federal government should not pass the American Jobs Plan and instead narrow it down and create new plans individualized for each of the issues that need to be addressed.
Okay. Now we will go with a 1-minute cross-examination. This is where Ken will now clarify some of his questions to the negative Emily. Okay, so Jody, would you come back up?
Thank you, Emily, for that great constructive.
Of course.
If you could clarify your definition of infrastructure again.
Yes, the definition of infrastructure according to Oxford Languages is the basic physical structures and facilities of an organization or in society, including buildings and roadways.
You also stated that this plan was too expensive. Could you give a reason why this spending would necessarily be a bad thing?
Yes, so because the definitions and the topics within this plan are so broad, we can't guarantee that the right amount of money will go towards the right things. You said that there would be $621 billion going towards infrastructure, but that is broken up and there's still several $1 billion worth of money that are not being accounted for that are going towards other things, and it doesn't define exactly where that money is going. It's too much money to just let float around. If we had a more clear and concise idea of where it's going towards, this would be a fine amount of money. But because it's so much going to nowhere, no.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to my opponent for that process. I'm just going to rebut some of her points. She said that the plan is too broad, that there's too big of a definition of infrastructure here, too big of a bill to fit under the definition of infrastructure. However, I'd like to remind my opponent that the bill is titled the American Jobs Plan, not the American Infrastructure Plan. Infrastructure is included in this bill as it creates jobs, but it's not specifically just about infrastructure. So she also said that this plan was too expensive. I would say that we are in the middle of an economic recession. We're seeing slow job growth. Jobs are not coming back the rate we wanted them to, and our supply chains are weak. We've been through this before, the Great Depression in the 1930s, and the only thing that solved that was the massive spending efforts of the Roosevelt administration on things like the Tennessee Valley Authority, the CCC, and other public works programs. This helped America get back to work and help stimulate the economy. So we can see that spending a lot of money sometimes is a really good thing. So hitting those 2 points, I'd just like to restate my contentions that this bill specifically goes to help improve our crumbling infrastructure, make our roads safer, and our water safer, as well as helps create jobs and gets America back to being a producer and back to our economic stability. These 2 points are why the judge, why all of you should vote the affirmative. Thank you.
Oh, 2 minutes. All right. Thank you, Ken, for having such good organization there in your speech. Now I'm going to come back on my points and just reiterate that my 2 contentions regarding it's too broad of a plan and it's too much spending all at once. Now it's too broad of a plan because, again, yes, this is called the job plan. That's the idea of it. And yet $621 billion of it is going towards infrastructure. It's only a very small portion of that money that is actually going towards these jobs that the affirmative says is going to help women of color and other minorities in these elderly and childcare professions. That is the small portion of this bill, and the large majority of it is going towards infrastructure. And yet there's still all of these little tiny pieces that are still being spent on that we can't say exactly how much is going where. This is one of the reasons why this that the American Jobs Plan should not pass as is. It should be broken up into multiple bills so we can have a better idea of where the spending is going, rather than one ginormous partisan chunk of money going to all of these different things. Again, it's also too much too quickly. This ties into my second contention. This is $6 trillion now that Biden will have spent in his very first few months of his 4-year presidency. Now, it is important that we look at how much money the U.S. is spending on these things. And yes, my opponent brings up the Great Depression and how infrastructural spending helped pull America out of it. And yet this is just a tactic to scare the United States and the people into saying, oh no, this is going to lead to another Great Depression. There is a way that we can all work together to find common sense ways for real infrastructure legislation without resorting to partisan tax hikes that will hurt our economy. Those are the words of Ohio Representative Senator Rob Portman. And that's where I'm going to leave you today so that our judge can choose that the U.S. federal government should not pass the American Jobs Plan. Okay, you have your 1 minute for reading.
With my final minute today, I'd just like to wrap up my arguments and summarize why you should vote for the affirmative today. We need to get the American economy back up and rolling. The coronavirus has left many people devastated in job insecurity, depleted savings accounts, and many people have been kicked out of their homes as well. This massive bill, which is large, is intended to get people to do just that, to increase economic stability and make things better. This is something that needs to happen quick. We should not break this up into little bits. As we know, Congress can move slow on many of these things. We should do it all at once and do it in the best way possible. This transportation and infrastructure portion of it will go toward making America safer, and the creating the jobs portion will create enduring changes for the population in general. Through these 2 points, we can see that this plan is necessary, it is good, and you should vote to pass it. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was our resolution, and that was a great job by both debaters. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Emily. That was a great job. I would just like to remind everybody that this was a shorter version of what would be a professional debate. Each side had about half the time to do their research, their cross-examination, and their arguments. So I'd also like to remind everybody that being in a debate is seeing both sides. A lot of times in society, we like to see things from a left or a right perspective. As you can see, the points were made very well and were very informative. I hope you learned a lot. And also that these may not be their actual political views. Debate often means that you have to take sides that you wouldn't actually take. So yeah, was our debate portion, and I would like to pass it off to Vanessa. Vanessa.
Thank you, Jesse. So I hope we've been having fun so far. Next up is Carly. Carly is a second semester speech and debate student as well as a communications major. She will be doing prose. That is a type of interpretation where the original source material was not meant to be performed. Now, there is going to be a content warning for this for adult themes and sexualized violence. So without further ado, with that warning in mind, Carly.
It took me until the age of 30 until I was finally able to open myself up to a social life, and eventually even a husband. Joseph saw me as I wanted to see myself, this beautiful, strong woman, not this meek, broken woman I see when I look in the mirror. Shortly after we married, we adopted our son, Nate. My role as a parent is to protect. So when Nate was 10 and asked me if he could go to a birthday party without me, my mind went into a whirlwind, and I immediately said no without any hesitation. I couldn't risk it. I needed to keep him safe. I'm never surprised when I find out someone is a sex offender or a pedophile, not teachers, not public figures, not even sweater-wearing celebrities like Bill Cosby. I will, however, occasionally get a weird censored vibe about someone and immediately tell the other parents, don't leave your child alone with that man. What does Nate know about my past? Only that mommy had a hard childhood, but it's her job to keep kids safe. I know, the helicopter parent is cliche, always circling around, making sure the coast is clear. Maybe someday I will tell him everything. In recent years, we've all seen the overbearing archetype of helicopter parenting come to life on our screens, in our texts, and even in our neighborhoods. While this type of parenting may be laughable to some, it is often the unseen result of childhood trauma. Although sexual abuse is often underreported due to stigma, the CDC still indicates that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 4 boys fall victim to sexual violence. Jennifer Bagley, a therapist who studies childhood trauma intervention, states that after a trauma, especially if untreated, the child operates more from the part of the brain that controls emotions, causing them to be hypervigilant and overreactionary. And in later years, this can manifest into the helicopter parents. Caitlin Menza shares the struggle of herself as a parent, psychologist, and inside the trauma.
Say it.
What happens when you're
Awesome.
the one?
Say
By Caitlin Menza.
No, awesome. Say it.
When you got me,
No,
it
say
all
it.
just kind of fit. She was such a good baby.
No, Gunnar, you're doing it way wrong. Say it.
Not fussy at all, but boy, when he started to move, he really moved. Always running and jumping and climbing all over everything. I mean, he wasn't out of control. I think it was just normal kid stuff. But I felt like I had to be right next to him all the time. As he's gotten older, I see this streak continue. He wants to do more. I want him to do less. For example, there's this soccer team some of his friends play on. We tried enrolling him, but it was hard for us. Hard for me. He loved playing, but it was just too much for us with all those long weekends out on the fields, all those games, and all those people I didn't know. One time, we were at one of these big soccer weekends, and I was walking back to the field from my car and automatically just scanned the field for Nate. I could see his coach, and his teammates and their families, but Nate's chair next to my husband's was empty. Where was Nate? I started moving faster, rushing back to our seats. I could feel the panic swell inside me as I heard myself screaming his name, running from group to group. In the distance, I see an old concrete building, secluded from the rest of the fields. Something goes boom inside my head and sets off a chain reaction in which I was no longer in control. Realizing they were bathrooms, I ran in, pounding on every door, screaming. When I got to the last one, I throw the door open and there's a man. I raise my arms and start pounding on his chest. Where's Nate? Where's my son? But I realized that this man had no idea what I was talking about. Just as I grab my phone to call 911, I see him. He's over at the water fountains. I remember running to him, grabbing him, hugging him. He could have been anywhere. Crowds started gathering, staring at my craziness, checking my son for bruises or something worse. That was the last time we did soccer. But of course, ending soccer was not the end to him wanting to have a social life. Last week, my husband convinced me to let him go to a birthday party without me. There he goes, out the front door. My brain screams, how can I protect him if I'm not even there? Just as the thought enters my brain, there's these images I've not wanted to remember for a long time. These images, they have no beginning and no end. As far back as I can remember, I see drinks, I see cameras, I see adult bodies, but I do not remember their faces. I see lingerie, but not normal. It's little, sized for me. My earliest memories are being forced to pose for child pornography and being touched by those adult bodies. There were parties too. I remember them from when I was just 6. We were given drugs, alcohol, anything to keep us compliant. Men would gather with their cameras. I guess everybody wanted to keep safe. It's 9 o'clock. I wonder how he's doing. 10 o'clock. He's just so innocent. 10:15. I wonder, does he even know what to... I can't even think it. I don't remember protesting. I just remember thinking it was normal. It wasn't until I was older that I realized my life wasn't like other kids. They didn't have to go to parties. They were never touched. Fuck. I shouldn't have let him go. It's 11:30. I can't take it. I have to call. Should not have let him go. Come on, pick up. You never know who people really are. When it happened to me, nobody cared enough to look. And if they did know, nobody said anything. God, why didn't anybody say anything? Hello? Hi. Can I please talk to my son, Nate? Thank you. Come on. Nate, honey, are you okay? I love you. Okay. Okay, you ate pizza, good, and you're watching, good. Okay, I'll let you go. I love you. I'll see you in the morning, okay? Okay, bye. My lungs fill with air for the first time in what feels like forever. Nate is safe. I often wonder, Do all humans have this capacity for such depraved behavior? How deep do we need to look? Or is it always hiding in plain sight? You have to ask the questions. Raise a question, send in a tip, ask the person, but you have to say something. I had something to say, and I'm gonna say it now.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining our performance showcase. My name is Shannon Coxel-Andres. I'm the director of the speech and debate team here at Butte College. And so hopefully you found something in our range of powerful performances that really caught your eye. So we had funny things, dramatic, informative, but whatever it is, you can find your spot here on the speech and debate team. So if you're interested, communication studies in general has classes online and on campus for next fall, and we're enrolling now. CMST 12 is what you need to enroll in forensics. If you're here for some kind of class where you're getting extra credit and you need to make sure that your teacher knows that you were here, go ahead and type your name and your class number or your teacher's name into the chat, and then I'll make sure to get that to them as well. So again, thank you to our fantastic performers, a variety of different things going on the team, and thank you again so much. You don't need any experience to join the speech and debate team. This is really where you get to grow your skills. So I hope to see you all next semester and on the team. Thank you.